Hello, this video is a little case study. It's not an overview of course content. It's a more personal reflection on some of the issues we've been covering in this course with relation to a project that I've been involved with for many years now called Mercy Connect. It used to be called Classroom Connect, and this is a program where adult volunteers, usually ex-teachers, a lot of them retired teachers, or sometimes not, go back into schools as volunteers to spend time with refugee students for whom English is a second language and spend time with them as tutors. So sometimes they go into the classrooms and sometimes they go take the students to the library or somewhere quiet to do their classwork and to help them. In this project, I've learned a lot about English, about language learning and about learning culture. And I want to share very briefly a few of my learnings from this project, which I've been involved with for, as a researcher and as a trainer of the tutors in literacy and how to help the students. So one of the things we learned from doing research into this program is that the students see the tutors as mentors, and that some of the refugee students, because they come from backgrounds where they're survivors of trauma and torture, and often they have very limited or interrupted schooling before they came to Australia, they find school in Australia incredibly difficult, and having a tutor to talk to really helps them to negotiate the cultures of schooling. So all of those things I've got on the slide, how to be in the classroom, how to raise your hand, how to sit still, how to organise your diary, how to keep everything together in your school bag, how to do homework, how to plan an assignment, just surviving the cultures of schooling, something really, really important. So I've really learnt that teaching language is teaching culture. The tutors and the students' teachers themselves, they can't teach any course content or any of the language the students need without also teaching the culture at the same time. And of course, it's been a big learning curve for me and the other people in the program to learn about the cultures of the students and their needs and their understandings and how we can sort of meet halfway. One of the most important things that the tutors do is help the students to do their assessment tasks in high school. This is for high school students, and how to do their homework. And let's hear what some of the students said in this research. They said that assignments are hard. I did what I understand and I leave the rest. Maybe the teacher will shout. Doesn't your heart just go out to these students? They don't know what to do. They're trying to negotiate all the challenges of schooling, and then they might get shouted at if they don't do the right thing. The tutors give the students some confidence to at least do something. It may not be a high distinction assignment, but just to get something handed in, just to get through it, just to survive and to hopefully learn some skills, some portable understandings they can take to the next task. Here are some quotes from students in the program talking about how they find homework very difficult because they don't have parents or older brothers or sisters or other people who can help them with homework. These sorts of comments have led to the rise of homework clubs. There may be some running in your area where students from often disadvantaged backgrounds or refugee backgrounds receive support from volunteers. Often the schools run these projects, libraries do. ACU runs several projects like this, and the homework clubs can be very successful in helping students to survive the realities of doing assignments and homework. Here are some of the principles that I use when teaching the tutors and what they really need to know in order to help these students. The first thing is the tutors themselves need to know a lot about language and how language is used in schooling. We have to build the field with the students. Before we can do anything about helping them to write an assignment or read a book, we have to help them understand what it's about. What on earth is going on? What's the topic? What's going on? Let me give you an example. In our high school, one of the high schools we were dealing with, one of the students had an assignment for TAS, textiles, where they had to, it was to design a cushion based on themes from the Great Barrier Reef. Well, one of the students we were dealing with was Sudanese, from a refugee background and a background of interrupted schooling. She didn't know what the Great Barrier Reef was, and she'd never made a cushion in her life. She didn't have very many cushions around in her home. It was just such an alien concept. And what do you mean design something from the Great Barrier Reef? It was impossible. So the first thing, one of our tutors sat with this girl and they looked at pictures on the internet and videos and maps of where the Great Barrier Reef is, what you might do there, and they talked about snorkeling and diving and fish and all that sort of thing. So the student could even understand what on earth was going on, let alone start to design her own pattern for the cushion. At the school next door, one of the boys had an assignment for woodwork where they were all going to build a bird box, a bird house to put in a tree. Well, this was just such an alien concept for this student. Why would you build a house for a bird? What does it look like? What's it for? Again, one of the first things the tutors did with the student was to explain what you might use it for, that you might have birds as like pets, like native birds might come and they're pretty and they're nice, and what kind of birds you might have, what kind of trees you might put these little bird boxes in. Then the student could start to think about how you might build one of these things. Teaching language and teaching culture and teaching schooling, it's all together, right? So, learning keywords from the field once the student understands what the topic is about, and understanding the social purpose of whatever it is they have to do for the assignment. And as you know, it can be pretty complicated. Then what the stages are in the text. For example, if it's an argument, the student has to write a thesis, their opinion, then a series of arguments, then reinforce their point of view. All of those things we could call the stages of a text. And then within those stages, do you have to write a paragraph? Are there points? What kind of thing are they being asked to write? And with paragraph structure, put the main point first, make it a topic sentence, and then put examples and evidence next. Then sentences. How do you start a sentence? Giving the tutors ideas of how you can start with sentence starters, and also graphic organisers we can use with students. So they could draw boxes, one for each of the paragraphs, and write little dot points of what they need to include in each one of those. So all kinds of literacy strategies that we can use with refugee students, but all this language learning and content learning is still teaching the culture, teaching our own culture and the culture of schooling, which may be obvious to us, but it really is not necessarily obvious to everyone. A few last comments about the project. We found that when we developed some simplified literacy resources about the content topics, say for science, everyone in the class wanted to use it. Not just students from refugee backgrounds, but simple, clearly explained resources that build understanding in a stepped out way. They're really useful for everyone, not just English language learners. Some of our tutors are very frustrated when they go into schools when teenage students are being given baby books, you know, really little kid books for 3-year-olds in English. It's really important to find age-appropriate, culturally appropriate resources, which we'll be talking about for our assignment. But seriously, last week I went in and talked to the tutors, and some of the schools are still dishing out this garbage resources. Computer work. As you know, in schools now, the kids always have to do research on the internet. But how could you research if you don't know what words to use to search for things, and you don't know what the words mean, and you can't necessarily spell very well, and you can't touch type? These are really interesting issues that a lot of students are dealing with, and they might need very, very scaffolded support in how to do research, especially using a computer. And we've recommended that typing courses would help some of these students. So not necessarily what to type, but just so they are familiar with how to use the keyboards of computers. The Mercy Connect project is really very successful, and there are hundreds and hundreds of students being supported in New South Wales and Victoria. Here's some comments from some of the students involved in the tutoring, sorry. And if you'd like to read more, I put my journal article, which was a review of some of our initial research, as one of the optional readings. Feel free to have a look. And there are also a couple more readings about how to address the needs of refugee learners, because they are one of our most important groups, one of our neediest groups, because they have really significant English learning needs and culture learning needs for success in our schooling. Okay, hope you found that interesting. Bye.